How's it going, guys? I'm Danny, and this video is going to be a little bit different than some of the other content you've seen on this channel. I've been making a lot of videos at work, and so coming home and making more videos, I don't really feel like it when I get off work, but I have been streaming a lot because I can just relax and play some games, and I love talking disc golf in the stream. And so I had an idea to kind of bring streaming and making videos together. So this is a discussion that is in the middle of one of my streams. I wanted to talk about practicing putting, and so I set aside some time, and we just talked about putting and how to practice effectively and how to transfer your practice to the course. So yeah, definitely check it out, and also check out the stream, twitch.tv/DannyDisc, if you want to come hang out and jump in Discord. The link will be in the description for this if you want to get notified next time I do a discussion stream. So check it out. I know I like to watch a lot of videos almost as podcasts, just with noise in the background. And this video, I think, would be perfect for that. So check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you at the next discussion. All right, just chatting, discussion. Should I leave the music going? I think I will. I'm digging these chill beats. They're very chill. Okay, so I don't know how well I described it earlier. The idea here is it's going to be the sort of a discussion, kind of me ranting about it, but also getting feedback from y'all about practice putting and what I think the right approach is. And I'm definitely not an authority on practice putting because I don't do it nearly enough. But you know, we out here. Let me get this out of the way because that looks stupid. This will just throw it on the ground. It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Is the music distracting or should I not? We'll see how it. I mean, I'm assuming the video's monetized. It's probably music is good. Okay. All right. So I guess let's start. I don't really have a format or anything. I'm just gonna ramble for a bit. I should post in Discord about it. Talking on stream about practice putting. Could use some feedback if you want to chat. Okay. So the first mistake that I see a lot of people do with practice putting is they have a basket in their backyard or wherever, which is fine. Obviously, you want to have a basket so you can practice, but they just putt without any consequence, right? You have a stack of 8 different discs and you just kind of go throw them at the basket. You make some, you miss some. It's kind of whatever, which is good to a certain extent because that's just going to hone in your natural throw. But I don't really consider that practicing putting. When you're doing that, what you're not doing is you're not going through your routine and you're not putting yourself on you're not putting any pressure on yourself. So if you ever get to the tournament and you get to that 12-foot putt you've made 100 times in your backyard and you get super scared all of a sudden and you're a knee knocker and you don't know what to do and then you miss it and then you're really mad. I've been there, but if that happens a lot, it's because you're not going through your routine. Your routine is like a safety blanket when you're putting. It makes you feel comfortable. The main thing I usually focus on when you practice putt is honing the natural stroke. That's good. That's definitely good, and there's a place for that. But that should be in my opinion, it should be like a third, right? Like that much of your practice putting. That's what I do for like the beginning. So I when I go practice putt, I just go throw just some putts, whatever. I don't really care the range. I don't really care whatever. I'm just kind of getting used to throwing, kind of like the first couple games of Call of Duty, except I'm just bad. But just kind of slinging putts like most people do for practice putting. I'll do that for maybe 10 minutes, right? Because you don't need to take a lot of time to practice putting, but it is important to do it often. So while it is good to hone in your natural stroke, you definitely want to also develop your routine. Some people will go all the way to putting down their mini so that they can have that consistency. I usually just pick a spot on the floor, and it actually kind of makes it kind of awkward when I get on the course because I don't really know where to start from. So I end up kind of just walking around to whichever to even if I set all my stuff down on one side, I'll still walk behind my mini and then walk up to it, and it kind of feels like I take an extra second or so, but whatever. So it's important to hone your natural stroke. And the second mistake that I see a lot of people do, and I did this for a long time, is try to change it. I'll throw a putt and I'll miss it. And so I'll think, oh, okay, I gotta try and use my wrist a little bit more, or I'll try and pull it back just a little bit higher, or I'll try and do all kinds of different things until I'm eventually making it, or I think I'm making it. But in reality, all I'm doing is bringing in all sorts of inconsistency, because I end up making like a checklist of things that I have to remember, and I'm never going to remember all of them on the course. And part of that's where the routine comes in, but I think a lot of that comes from honing your natural stroke. If you're putting and you're trying to think about what your elbow's doing, what your wrist is doing, what your fingers are doing, and how much power and the how Smash Bros in the background. Sorry. If you're trying to think about every little thing you're doing and then you throw it and it goes in, that's not going to happen the next time, because as you get used to doing it, you're going to have to put less effort in. And so if you put the same amount of effort in, it's going to be exaggerated. Does that make sense? I hope the first time that I think that I need to spring it more with my fingers, I'll spring it more with my fingers, and then I'll do that like 2 or 3 times, and I'll be like, oh, sick, I'm doing it. I did it. And then when I go to putt after 5 or 6 minutes or so, and I try and spring with my fingers, I'm already used to doing it at that other level. And so when I do it so it feels the same, I'm springing it way more, and then I miss right. And so trying to hone in those little tiny things I don't think is not an effective way to do it. I think the most effective way to putt is to build a routine around your natural way of throwing a disc. If it might be a video, Laser, we'll see. If it is a video, make sure you subscribe and come check me out on Twitch. But if it's not, don't worry about it. The natural throw is really important. Like if I had somebody standing in the doorway or whatever, and they were like, hey, toss me the disc, and my natural way to throw it to them is like that, then I'm probably, I don't know, this is kind of awkward because I'm behind, but like spin around. If I were to just toss you the disc, I'm probably going to snap it and I'm going to spin it. But there's a lot of people that would throw, they would just kind of loft it. And just the natural way that you throw, you want to build everything around that. That's your starting point. My natural way to throw is a spin putt. It's where I just snap the disc from kind of my sternum, kind of my chest area, and I just float it right at the basket. And so I start from there, and then I build my routine backwards. So the first thing that I look at is, where are my feet? When I'm most comfortable and when I get the most, when I'm most balanced so that I can get the power from my feet, where are my feet? And the answer to that is not a super wide stance, because I feel like that kind of makes me shift, tilt forward and backwards as I go to putt. So I just kind of have them, I don't know, not Zach Melton where they're just parallel, but I have them at a natural spot, and I don't really push that much with my legs because I don't really need to usually. I have a lot of spin, so it just kind of floats straight towards the target. But if your natural way of putting has a lot more loft, you're probably going to want to take your natural stance is probably going to be a little bit wider. But it's not about thinking, this is how I putt, so I need to change something. It's identifying that and cementing that in place. Laser, I talked about this at the beginning. Practicing just putting a lot is a good way. It's not bad to start out with, but I think that should be just a portion of what of your actual putting routine. I think going through your routine more often is going to be more effective on the course. But I will. I kind of addressed that earlier. The other thing is the last thing. Sorry. So we talked about how to make it effective, just repetitions versus going through your routine. And then, I was talking about building a routine. One thing that I stress when I practice is the rhythm of my routine. I always stepped back from my mini. My routine doesn't start with my feet at my mini. I start back, and then I take that step forward, and then I start, and then that's the start of my routine. And it kind of has a rhythm to it, where I wipe off my hands, and then I feel the disc. I 2 practice strokes, and then I throw it. And that's always what I do, and it has a certain cadence and a certain rhythm. And so when I get out on the course, that feels natural. That's like it's a lot easier to take the pressure off when you're doing your routine. So I think that's very important, and you want to build that from your natural throw. The last thing is distance. So I don't usually practice too many jump putts. I'll practice a few of them, but if you're at a spot where you feel like you need to make 7 or 8 jump putts around, probably also need to work on your driving because a vast majority of your putts are going to be inside the circle. And the bad thing that I do when I practice is I will tend to just pick up most of my putts if they're inside the circle. If they're inside of like 20 feet or so, I'm like, well, it's not a long enough putt, so I'll just pick it up. But when I'm trying to get into into form for the season, I need to take my time and go through my routine there, because if you only do that, if you only go through your routine at like 20 to 30 feet, then you're only going to be comfortable at like 20 to 30 feet. And that's when the 12-footers become knee knockers again. That's when you're all uncomfortable because it's too close to miss, except you haven't practiced those. So the reason that I don't practice jump putts is because it's far. I consider most jump putts are like gimmies, or not gimmies, bonuses. If I make a jump putt, that's sick. But I don't know if it's right, but I don't necessarily expect to make jump putts. But I expect to make everything inside the circle. So, I kind of don't really have anything else. I think that's it. The 3 things are, start with your natural throw. Don't try and overthink it. Second thing is build a routine from what feels comfortable and work your way backwards. And then the third is practice close putts. Practice your 5-footers, practice your 10-footers, and work your way out from there. And I will throw a few jump putts just to make sure I still know how to do it. But in my experience, because the jump putt is just the extra power coming from the legs, my natural throw with the jump tends to go just about as far as if I'm making the putts that are inside the circle, I'm going to make the jump putts because my natural throw is so honed in. So what do you think? Do you think that I'm wasting time going through my routine every time when it's the same throw anyway? The EBR is so fun though. I should try it. I tried it some last night. It's a lot harder to hit headshots than I thought. I really miss the one hit upper chest that the Mark II has. We're talking about putting. Sorry. Because I can definitely see where just tossing the disc at the basket, it's certainly a lot more fun. Right? Just walking around and throwing some putts and then making some, and you feel like you're really good because you can make it when there's no pressure on and you're not going through your routine. You don't think going through the routine is a waste of time. Well, that's not... doesn't provide any argument. All right, I guess if this becomes a video, let me know in the comments what you think. And I guess come follow on Twitch. So next time I do one of these discussion things, you can tell me how wrong I am. What do you think, guys? Is that good enough to be a video, or should I just not? All right, I think it's kind of fun. I gotta say, okay. Do you think that a Hyzer putt or a flat putt is a higher percentage throw? Man, that's a hard question, honestly. I like Hyzer putts because they're, in my experience, they're kind of more consistent in a crosswind. That's kind of what I throw on. But I hate right to left winds because I have a Hyzer putt. So a flat putt's really good too. Yeah, I think that with the flatter putts, they're not going to be as affected, but it's also really hard to get a flat angle, a perfectly flat angle every time. If it's just a little bit of an Anheuser, a little bit of a Hyzer, as soon as there's a crosswind, it's gonna trash it. I think whatever's natural. I think too much Hyzer is definitely not a good idea. Right? I think if you're putting on more than 30% Hyzer, if you're kind of putting like this, I think what that does is it makes your putt, you have to worry about forward to backward a lot more. For most putts that are relatively flat, turn down the music some. For most putts that are relatively flat, the difference that 3 feet or so makes in a putt is not very big. right? If I throw a 20-foot putt about the same that I throw a 23-foot putt, because number one, because I'm a spin putter. But even if I was a push putter, as long as I don't put it out there like this, I throw it relatively straight at the basket. But as soon as you get out farther, you have to factor in that hyzer, and that brings like the X and the other axis in more, and so it adds just a lot more variables. Should a beginner try to throw a flat putt? I think a lot of the problem that beginners have a lot of times is they use too much wrist and not enough fingers, right? I think spreading out the fingers on the bottom and really feeling the weight of the putter in your fingers. I should be demonstrating this with a putter. All right, here's a putter. Feeling the weight of the putter in your fingers and focusing on spinning it as much as possible is a lot more important, because most beginners that I see when they're putting, they do kind of that number, right? Everybody's seen it. It's just pivoting at the elbow and just kind of yeeting it. But if you tell them to feel the weight in their fingers, spin it a lot, and try and float it straight at the basket, even if it's on a little bit of a hyzer, that's fine. Just get it going and get it and try and float it more is what I teach. Some people respond really well to telling them it's like throwing horseshoes. But also you don't want to have the putter on too much hyzer. You want to try and keep it mostly flat. Is also going to give you more glide, which is going to help again with the distance differential. Differential, is that the right word? Not really sure. But the flatter it is, the straighter it's going to carry and the more it's going to carry. So if you hypothetically had a putt that was flat and 1,000,000 miles an hour, every single putt would be the exact same. Because your putts would just straight at the basket from 1 foot out to 100 feet. But if you put it on hyzer, even I guess if you throw it hard enough, it'll still go flat. But as soon as you start having to put enough hyzer on it where you have to factor in that curve, then it becomes a lot more inconsistent, I think. Your putts got exponentially better when you focus on your grip and your release. It's a lot more important than people think, just getting that spring off. Feeling Zoe Andike had in the Physics of Flight episode, she talked about just playing with your putter and kind of like you can't tell because it didn't have a stamp on that side, but it's just spinning. Right? And this is just, I'm just springing it with my fingers and feeling that. And I think that's a huge part of it. I feel like putting is more muscle memory than driving. I definitely think so. I think there is a 80% correct form for driving, but literally nobody putts the same. If you see a silhouette of literally anybody putting, you can tell exactly who it is. If you saw a silhouette of Paul Macbeth putting, you know exactly what he looks like. Emac's logo is him putting, and it's immediately identifiable as Emac because nobody else putts like that. TWS, how come when I drive a putter, it turns over nose angle? Yeah, that's kind of into driving with putters, but because putters don't have as beveled of an edge as drivers do, you kind of have to throw them nose up. Right? What the nose does is it splits the air over the top and the bottom of the disc, and so it actually gets air underneath the bottom. But if you throw it really flat or really nose down, it doesn't really have much air that goes underneath it to help it keep that stability. So try and throw it a little bit nose up. Yes, I do have a video on it. I would definitely check that out. That's what you struggle with the most. You're trying to flatten out your putt to increase consistency. See, that's hard though, because you obviously do want to putt flatter, but also you don't want to try and change what your natural throw is. So I think, okay, so when I'm going through my routine and I'm doing my practice strokes, what I'm focusing on is the line that I want my putter to fly on to the basket. You know, like when you're playing a golf video game and you're standing on the tee sideways and you can see in front of you like where the ball is going. That's what I imagine for my putter, and I'm trying to get it to go straight at the basket. In most cases. Sometimes if I'm farther away, it'll have a little bit more of an arc to it, or sometimes it'll have a little bit of a hyzer to it if I'm really far away, especially on jump putts or something like that. And so when I'm putting on, when I notice that I'm putting on too much hyzer, that usually means that my arc is too high. So I try and imagine the line a little bit straighter, and then I'll naturally put a little bit less hyzer on it. Because if you think too much about the angle, that's deviating from what your natural throw is, and it ends up not feeling natural in the end. Because it's such a personalized thing, it's hard to know what's right. No, we thought you were serious about the flick putts. Jeez. I've played snow golf one time, and it was I played in Wisconsin, and there was a guy who had a I want to say it was a wasp, and he would anywhere inside of 50 feet he just flicked it and it dead center. It was awesome. Okay, sorry, we're talking about putting here. I'd say I have that problem on anything farther than 25 feet. Where you have to, where it comes out on hyzer farther than 25 feet? Oh, trying to flatten out your putt? Try, when I'm aiming, when I'm farther out, I just imagine that arc. Like I know I just said I flatten it out to get that putt flatter. But if the farther out I am, I kind of have to throw it higher. So I would start closer with that flatter trajectory. And then as you get farther out and you've got that flatter trajectory, you've got that flatter release, then you can start to aim higher and let the disc carry at the basket. Any advice on putting practice not correlating with performance on the course? You have a few locations for your home basket with different shots and elevation changes, but your practice isn't quite making it to the course. Yes, I definitely talked about that at the beginning. But that's, I think, 100% a routine thing. It's easy when you're home practicing just to throw a lot of putts and not really go through everything. I think that should be about like 30% of your practice time. I think if you take your time, if you go through your routine, that's like your security blanket, and you're going to feel a lot more confident all of a sudden on the course as soon as you start going through your routine. What foot do you normally have forward? You've got the right foot, but your arm has more room to come back if the left foot is forward. How are you putting? Oh, you're probably like push putting where it has a little bit more of a swing to it. I definitely don't think that it's probably not that much of a difference that you get in the extra length of your swing. Think about it. It's maybe 3 or 4 inches. That shouldn't be that big of a deal, especially because if you have your left foot forward, you're twisting your spine, and it's not like it's going to be hard to get a natural straight throw. But if you have your right foot forward, then your spine's more neutral, you're more lined up at the basket, you're going to have a lot easier time extending forward and staying balanced. Because think about it, if your left foot's forward and then you follow through with your right arm, that's crossing everything, and it's going to make you really off balance. So I would definitely say your dominant hand, that foot should be forward. Unless you're like a straddle putt, which is fine. Currently in a cast in your throwing hand. Any tips on recovery when it's off in 2 weeks? Oh, no. I don't know, man. I have no idea. It depends on, I don't know. I would see what your doctor says for sure. See if you can throw. You don't really have a set routine. You're going to work on it your next few practices. Just make one up and then adapt it to what's comfortable there. Like I always step off my mini and step up onto it, and then I always wipe my hand on my pants because sometimes my hands are very, very wet or sweaty or whatever. And then I had 2 practice pumps and then the actual putt. You come down kind of more between your legs to give you that room. Barry Schultz. Is that it? I think Barry Schultz does that. Definitely. And he does it with his right leg forward. He's got a really cool like swing to his putt. Okay, last little bit before this video gets way too long. Spinning the disc on your finger. I learned how to do this when I worked at the restaurant with the pizza pans. We had the pizza pans that had a bunch of like dimples in the bottom, and you could put your finger in one of those that was off center and just keep it spinning for forever because it was just barely off center. So that's kind of what you're wanting to do. You want to get your finger to where you start your finger in the middle, and then by nature of the disc spinning, it kind of crawls off of your finger. And so once it's off your finger, you can kind of swing the disc from there. I don't know if you can see it if I go up here. You kind of swing the disc from there and try and get your finger back to the middle. And then once it's back to the middle, it'll be going and start to crawl off again. Yeah, I'm really, I don't know. It depends on what kind of injury you had. If you have a cast on your arm because of like a tendon tear, I don't even know if that's a thing. I would lower your expectations and take it slow. Remember, it's not, your muscles aren't going to be developed, but also it doesn't take a lot of muscle to throw far. All right. I think that's it for the discussion. I need to come up with a better name because guaranteed discussion has been taken. Somebody has got to call something a discussion. Plus, it's kind of awkward to say. So, thanks for hanging out, guys. I'll post about these when I'm doing them again in Discord. I might post them in media, actually, and I'll post them earlier and tag the time and everything. So make sure you're in Discord if you want to be notified next time I do this. I'm thinking the next one might be on like driving practice. Should it be on driving practice or should it be on throwing up shots? I don't know. Let me know. And yeah, I forgot how to do the outro. I always got to say thanks for watching, everyone, and always remember, slow is smooth and smooth is far.